I promised that I would stay for 6 months and didn't get out for 11 years.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at fringe religious groups that, despite controversy over their methods, are still up and running.
We are trained to respect the workers, like they are the sent ones of God, they are anointed of God, they've left their home, they've sacrificed so much.
Shekinah Church.
He tells me he's a man of God, and just like King David in the Bible, he's allowed to have mistresses. I want you to be my mistress.
Pastor Robert Shin established a seemingly standard Pentecostal church in Los Angeles in 1994. He later founded 7M Films to spread the word by representing social media influencers. Some former clients would in fact spread different words about Shin through the 2024 docuseries Dancing for the Devil.
Some of you may leave Shekinah, but all their roads lead to hell.
He stands accused of teaching that Shekinah is the only path to heaven and that parishioners must cut off all unsupportive loved ones. A lawsuit claimed that 7M talents were also encouraged to, quote, donate up to 70% of their earnings to Shin. Law enforcement has even investigated potential ties to organized crime. Shin and his parishioners stand firm against this potentially ruinous scandal, but the Shekinah Church may now be better known as the TikTok cult.
We're all victims of this church.
Dean and I hunted down and did our little private investigating to figure out where the church is.
We just want Miranda back.
The Jesus Christians.
Tonight, a worldwide investigation into the evil and destructive ways of a self-proclaimed Messiah, a charismatic Australian whose devoted disciples believe he walked this earth 2,000 years ago.
Founded in Melbourne by Dave and Sherry McKay, the Jesus Christians have been spreading their belief system of anti-institutionalism since 1981. Chapters around the world adhere to tenets of radical equality, abstinence, and poverty. In 2003, British journalist John Ronson exposed that some members were encouraged to donate their own kidneys to complete strangers. This, quote, supreme act of love helped influence policies to remove Australia's relationship criteria in medical donations, though Victoria upheld it for potentially coerced Jesus Christians. The ensuing public scrutiny and ideological schisms dealt a severe blow to the movement in 2010. But social media has allowed the Jesus Christians to thrive globally, despite accusations of corruption and dangerously drastic devotion.
Why do you think that I said that in the first century?
But that's not you, and you are not Jesus.
No, that's your opinion.
Aggressive Christianity Missionary Training Corps.
We are the cult of the living God. Read my lips carefully. We are the cult of the living God.
You know, the word cult comes from culture.
Jim and Deborah Green weren't likely to draw many to their California congregation with the name Aggressive Christianity Missionary Training Corps. After the Front, Free Love Ministries was disgraced by a 1988 lawsuit alleging abuse, the fundamentalist Christian militia toured its message of spiritual warfare across the American West. The Greens' daughter Sarah was able to escape in 1999. She would play a key role in securing her own parents' and arranged husband's conviction for child abuse in 2018. Meanwhile, the remaining soldiers of the ACMTC went underground after the courts seized their compound during the apparent downfall of their generals. Deborah Green conspicuously disappeared after her questionable exoneration in 2021.
Let God put you through battle. Let God try your heart. Let God try your reins. Then you can testify as to the glory and the power of Almighty God.
Universal Medicine.
Have you ever said that you're the reincarnation of Leonardo da Vinci?
Yes, I did.
Serge Benhayan, an Australian former tennis coach with no medical training, founded Universal Medicine in 1999 to promote alternative healthcare. His esoteric healing methods gradually grew from a multimedia franchise into a pseudo-scientific spiritual community headquartered in Lismore. Their own private education system teaches that Benhayan is the reincarnation of history's greatest geniuses, and that cancer and disabilities are karma for sins in past lives. In 2018, the New South Wales Supreme Court declared Universal Medicine, quote, a socially harmful cult. And still, followers continue to adhere to the strict dietary, cultural, and financial demands that have turned the Benhayan family into a multi-million-dollar brand.
When you go into evolutionary energy, you realize the world's not human anymore. That's when you see spirits.
Grace Road Church.
The leader of the group convinced her followers to move to Fiji.
Grace Road says it's building heaven on earth.
Once they got into Fiji, the leaders took their passports away and their phones away, so they can't keep in touch with their families.
Shin Ok-ju moved 400 followers from South Korea to Fiji in 2014, claiming it was the only place to survive a global famine. This just happened to be about the time she was sued by a former member for the pastor's abusive healing methods. This began the revelations about the Grace Road Church's use of ritual violence to, quote, drive out evil, coupled with allegations of human trafficking, child abuse, and forced labor. Shin was finally sent to prison in 2019, with her successor Daniel Kim being detained 4 years later on an Interpol Red Notice. And yet, the Grace Road Church continues to operate restaurants, supermarkets, and farms in Fiji, allegedly with support from serious isolation and crimes.
Grace Road Church is an apocalyptic Christian sect that started in South Korea in the early 2000s.
They upload so many YouTubes, mainly their sermon videos.
The Fellowship of Friends. Robert Earl Burton founded the Fellowship of Friends in 1970 California on the belief that conscious evolution comes through fine art and self-remembering. Members came to believe that they were guided by 44 angels, including Abraham Lincoln and Leonardo da Vinci, to survive a coming, quote, catastrophic doom. That doom seemed to come in 2023, when Burton was sued for alleged human trafficking and sexually assaulting hundreds in ritualized love fests. Still, he has continued to lead more than 1,500 followers at the Apollo compound, funded by the tithes of 10% of members' income. Despite failed doomsday predictions and scrutiny from federal law enforcement, the Fellowship of Friends is still working towards some higher consciousness through winemaking and art. Buddhafield. Gaining mainstream attention through the documentary Holy Hell, Buddhafield was founded in 1980s Los Angeles by Jaime Gomez. The Venezuelan rancher's son and former actor has gone by many names, most notably Michelle Rostand, while encouraging meditation, celibacy, and God complexes among his followers.
He just was soft, and his energy was just still.
He also claimed that he could transmit Shakti energy. The jig seemed to be up in 2016 when Rostand's former propaganda minister Will Allen exposed a system of sexual abuse, forced labor, and psychological control that involved plastic surgery.
Michelle gave us all new names to help us move beyond our past and to create a new way of seeing ourselves.
Rostand instead moved operations to Hawaii and into even deeper secrecy. Buddhafield is believed to have around 24 devotees now, still serving their leaders' luxurious lifestyle and likely still abusive practices.
I am in you. But in truth, there's no I, there's no you. So come.
The Crossfield School of Prophets. Among the most notable fundamentalist Mormon sects was named after an educational wing in Joseph Smith's Kirtland Temple. Robert Crossfield developed his School of Prophets in 1982 after he was excommunicated for his views on social conservatism, polygamy, and tax resistance. The group claimed infamy when Brenda Lafferty escaped with her daughter Erica in 1984, only for them both to be murdered by her brothers-in-law.
Under the Banner of Heaven throws a spotlight on a horrific crime in American Fork back in 1984, when the Lafferty brothers claimed that God told them to murder their sister-in-law Brenda and her baby.
Crossfield distanced himself from this, quote, blood atonement, but was permanently associated with it by John Krakauer's 2003 biography, Under the Banner of Heaven. He passed away in 2018, leaving his underground movement to quietly persist and spread its ideology across Mormon splinters that continue to place themselves above the law.
Ron and Dan Lafferty claimed God had told them to kill their sister-in-law and niece. The book argues the roots of their crime lie deep in the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
2x2s.
Former members of a religious group known as the 2x2 sect are speaking out. They're accusing church leaders of abuse and misusing their power. They say what happened behind closed doors went unchecked for years. Well, now the FBI is investigating amid a growing call for accountability.
One of the oldest fringe Christian restorationist factions goes by the Church with No Name or The Way. It's popularly recognized as the 2x2 movement because the ministers tend to travel in pairs. The name is of little significance to this group, which William Irvine founded in Ireland in 1897 as an evangelist philosophy which rejects church and centralization. This, along with extreme secrecy, allowed many cells to practice ministerial authoritarianism and sexual abuse for years.
Raymond Zwiefelhofer was a leader in the secretive and isolated 2x2 church until earlier this fall. He was convicted of possessing child sexual abuse material.
In 2024, a minister in New Zealand pleaded guilty to 55 charges after more than 900 alleged perpetrators were reported worldwide. Survivors describe a culture of silence and moving alleged abusers between homes. Despite this reckoning, the meetings continue without transparency. Ramtha School of Enlightenment.
My business at this point is getting you beyond your human phase into that consciousness that is sublime, into the thought that is immortal.
J.Z. Knight founded her Washington State School of Enlightenment in 1988 with claims of channeling an ancient Lemurian warrior named Ramtha. Students are taught to, quote, create their own reality through meditation and drinking rituals when they're not doing blindfolded fieldwork or preparing for the apocalypse.
A growing number of his followers have made her very wealthy. Who are they really following? An immortal wise man? A fake? Or, as some believe, is this the Antichrist, whose presence among us means we're on the eve of Armageddon?
Knight's extensive pseudoscientific philosophy has been spread by media appearances, workshops, and propaganda, including the 2004 film What the Bleep Do We Know? All of this and more have led to lawsuits, exposés, and exits by high-profile former followers. Knight has also been criticized for bizarre and bigoted rants during filmed trances. Still, the Ramtha School of Enlightenment continues to draw thousands, while Knight continues to draw a fortune.
And finally, after several minutes, this 40-year-old woman says she has turned into a 35,000-year-old man.
Indeed.
The voice seems different, the face seems different. Supposedly she is now a he, Ramtha, or the Ram, as his followers call him. Now the story goes that Ramtha lived in the lost land of Atlantis.
New Vrindavan.
What most Americans think when they hear Hare Krishna is peaceful people. Nothing about making someone disappear.
Once the crown jewel of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, New Vrindavan was large enough to be an unincorporated municipality in West Virginia. Kirtanananda Swami and Hayagriva Das founded it in 1968 as a utopian farm that respected standard Hare Krishna minimalism. Over the years, it would be adorned with gaudy structures and plagued by child abuse and organized crime. This required such meticulous brainwashing that Swami's followers were split over his repeated convictions. His dangerously unorthodox leadership had already prompted ISKCON to expel New Vrindavan in 1987. They would eventually readmit the center as a resplendent tourist site. The community itself now embraces mainstream Hare Krishna, but remains haunted by Swami's dark legacy.
During this time, he shared with them his vision of what the New Vrindavan community should embody.
Christian Gospel Mission.
Well, tonight we take you inside a secretive Korean church that has recruited new Australian members in shopping centres and in university campuses. For the first time, former members of the church in Canberra describe being initiated into a group they say recruits women as spiritual brides for its leader.
Jung Myung-sok founded Providence in 1980 after leaving the Unification Church in Seoul. The church would eventually be renamed the Christian Gospel Mission. Jung preached a distorted UC doctrine that claimed that he is the Messiah, that questioning him means damnation, and that sex with him absolves sins. He spread this message to college-age victims around the world before he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for sexual assault in 2009. He later got 17 years for continuing after his release. All the while, the Christian Gospel Mission expanded to more than 70 countries. It is now a corporate entity that continues to use social media and recruitment tactics to prey disproportionately on young women.
The main beliefs of the group are basically that Jung is the new Messiah, and that from the New Testament, the level of history has been raised to something that they called the complete testament. They said that we're in the position of brides towards God. And we're also in the position of brides towards Jung, the leader, because he represents God.
Supreme Master Ching Hai International Association.
Just listen to some precious teaching from the ancient time, yeah? Very hard to find this And they're very hard to find somebody to help you.
Vietnamese-British entrepreneur Ching Hai founded the Kuan Yin method in 1980s Taiwan, blending Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity. Her claims of enlightenment inspired a corporate empire. The vegan restaurant chain Loving Hut is believed to provide recruitment hubs, while Supreme Master Television has been broadcasting Ching Hai's philosophies since 2006. The Supreme Master Ching Hai International Association doesn't just have employees and consumers. Several governments in Asia have accused the organization of manipulating disciples with high-pressure tactics and financial exploitation. The Kuan Yin method has been banned in the People's Republic of China since 1995. Despite this, Ching Hai retains an estimated 2 million followers, who attend costly retreats and buy products said to carry spiritual energy.
I guess it's also not bad. Keep you relaxed, Yeah. Buddy style, and then you can listen to me. You don't feel too scared. Supreme Master.
Church Universal and Triumphant.
Yesterday I began to discuss with you the process of purgation. The mystics describe the purgative stage as a battle between the false self and the true self. Don't ever assume that you have passed that stage. It's a very dangerous assumption to make, because the fallen self, the carnal mind, and the dweller will never say die. So always assume that in the most unlikely moment, the false self is going to pop up and put down the true self before you even realize it.
Elizabeth Clare Prophet rebranded her husband Mark's Montana-based Summit Lighthouse after his passing in 1973. Claiming to channel ascended masters, she led the Church Universal and Triumph to stockpile weapons and build shelters for a nuclear strike by the Soviet Union in 1990. The Soviet Union instead collapsed that year. Years of financial and legal struggle soon followed, along with accusations of cult activity that further disillusioned members. The Church Universal and Triumphant had experienced power struggles and schisms by the time Prophet retired in poor health in 1999. Former members have discussed how the financial issues have persisted into the 2020s. Church Universal and Triumphant is still around, decentralized and reportedly emphasizing self-help over survivalism.
Against whom are you arming yourselves?
I would like you to understand that we do not have a fortress mentality. We are peace-loving people. We stand for life. This ground is sacred to us. We are not harming the environment. Our developments are on less than 2% of our 12,500-acre ranch here at the South Ranch. What we simply are saying, it's a nuclear age. It's common sense to have civil defense, and that is why we have fallout shelters.
Gloria Vale Christian Community.
The tight-knit, secretive community of Gloria Vale has, for decades, fascinated and disturbed. Allegations of serious misconduct, horrific stories from those who've left, whistleblowers left shunned and broken. Just how ingrained was the culture of abuse?
Tucked away in New Zealand is an isolationist Christian community that has faced decades of abuse allegations. The Gloria Vale Christian Community was founded by Neville Cooper, aka Hopeful Christian, who oversaw an unpaid communal lifestyle until his passing in 2018. 7 years later, his successor Howard Temple resigned after pleading guilty to 12 charges of assault. This rocked a community reportedly forced to work long hours, surrender their income, and even marry. New leader Stephen Standfast upheld formal apologies for Gloria Vale's history of abuse and exploitation, but there are claims that the fundamentalist power structure remains unchanged. Hundreds of followers still reside on Gloria Vale's compound, still facing disputes to its claims of reformation from within.
The disgraced former leader of the infamous Christian community, Gloria Vale, will be sentenced today on a raft of sex offences against girls and women over a period of more than 20 years. Howard Temple, who is 85, pleaded guilty to 12 charges, including indecent and common assault earlier this year.
Alamo Christian Foundation.
Tony and Susie were our gods.
Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
Amen, Christians.
Tony and Susan Alamo founded their ministry in Hollywood in 1969 on a mix of Pentecostalism, apocalyptic tracts, and business. The Alamo Christian Foundation frequently focused proselytizing on Hollywood and used various enterprises as a front for conversion. It also relied heavily on child labor. The foundation faded after Susan's death in 1982, while Tony's 2009 conviction for trafficking and marrying multiple minors seemed to signal the end of the movement. In fact, followers established the Tony Alamo Christian Ministries to continue spreading extreme views that have been spotlighted by the Southern poverty law firm. While the extent of its activities is obscured by the use of media and clandestine methods, former members report continued extremism and exploitation.
And there isn't ever any peace in the life of anyone who has ever known Jesus Christ to try to go back into a world of sin and drunkenness and all those things. It's a terrible existence.
The message is, if you leave here, you're going to be punished.
Eastern Lightning. In 1991, the Church of Almighty God first struck with Jiao Weishan's proclamation that Jesus had returned as the woman Yang Xiangbing. Outsiders gave them the more popular label Eastern Lightning in reference to a biblical verse on the Second Coming. Either way, the group was driven underground after the Chinese government banned splinters of the so-called Shouter sect in 1995. Critics believe that this, quote, evil cult designation really stems from the group's anti-government stance. However, Eastern Lightning has been linked to violent crimes, riots, and extremist propaganda since '98.
It was an ordinary evening in a small-town McDonald's until these people turned up, trying to recruit new members to their Christian cult.
The church officially rejects violence, though its practices are cloaked in secrecy by doctrine and legal suppression. They have nonetheless built a solid online presence from their headquarters in New York. Lev Tahor. Founded by Rabbi Shlomo Helbrands in 1988, Lev Tahor has been dubbed the, quote, Jewish Taliban in Israeli media. The fundamentalist sect practices a strict dress code, prayer for hours, and child marriage.
The allegations? Child abuse.
It's not discipline, it's physical abuse.
Since being chased out of Israel in 1990, they've moved operations between the Americas, Bosnia, and the Middle East. A number of members even claimed conflict with the Israeli government to get political asylum in Iran. Along the way, Lev Tahor has seen intense legal scrutiny for human trafficking and other crimes, as well as Helbrands' accidental death during a water ritual. But with only a few hundred members and constant government surveillance since their 2025 expulsion from Colombia, they continue to search for a stable home.
He couldn't care less about any of the God stuff. It's a tool for him to get people to follow him. And once they follow him, the God part falls away, and he has pure mind control over the people.
World Mission Society Church of God. An Sang-hong founded the World Mission Society Church of God in 1964 South Korea with the claim that he is the second coming of Christ. The movement has gained more than 7,000 churches and millions of followers worldwide since the founder's passing in '85. They've also faced extensive allegations of pressuring mostly college-age converts into excessive tithings and arranged marriages. This is supposedly done through psychological tactics, isolation from families, and fear-mongering doomsday predictions that included the 2012 theory. The church has won several legal battles over its construction projects and supposedly illegal methods. Still, the scale of the international legal drama and condemnation by mainstream Christians grows scrutiny right alongside the church. La Luz del Mundo. This Mexico-based megachurch claims millions of followers in more than 50 countries.
One of the largest religious cults of our time.
In addition to the yachts and the cars, they have ranches in Texas and California.
Critics claim deep corruption in La Luz del Mundo's restoration of primitive Christianity, under a bloodline of apostles dating back to 1926. One such apostle, Nason Joaquin Garcia, pleaded guilty in California to sexual abuse in 2022 and received nearly 17 years imprisonment. Prosecutors said that his crimes were just, quote, the tip of the iceberg.
This isn't a church. This is some sort of mafia.
Garcia and his inner circle would later be indicted on new federal racketeering and child trafficking charges. Whether this means that the dynastic system has unraveled, the congregation continues to defend their apostle as the voice of God. Garcia still shares that voice in sermons broadcast from prison.
New charges were filed against the former leader of La Luz del Mundo Church. Nason Joaquin Garcia is among 6 people charged with racketeering and child exploitation.
The Church of God with signs following.
If the world can feel these, every church in the world would have a box of snakes in.
There are some extreme religious practices that are from a different time and maybe should have stayed there. Snake handling, an act of worship that dates back to the 2nd century, isn't practiced by many. Many who do are in congregations inspired by the Church of God with signs following, a cult dedicated to preserving the custom. While the exact founder is contested, the most prominent figurehead is George Went Hensley. Throughout the 1930s, he traveled across the Southeast, convincing devotees that they should be able to hold the reptiles and drink poison in order to prove their faith. Even though he died from a snakebite in 1955, his beliefs continue to live on today in a few churches within the Southern Bible Belt.
How on earth is handling a snake a religious expression?
Just the same way, to me, taking up serpents in our religious ceremonies is just like the Catholic who use wine in their communion on Sundays.
Xenos Christian Fellowship, aka Dwell Community Church.
I think with the average church, it's more focused around the pastor or perhaps the staff. In this church, we do believe in leadership. That's very important, and surely equipping, but at the same time, it's really focused on the people.
Even seemingly mundane groups can have dark secrets lurking just beneath the surface. Started in 1970, the Xenos Christian Fellowship, now known as Dwell Community Church, doesn't seem like much on the surface. Its most obvious distinguishing characteristic is its focus on home worship rather than traditional services. However, looks can be deceiving.
I really wasn't aware of how sheltered I really was from the outside world.
Several accusations of mistreatment have been made by former members, ranging from inappropriate interactions with minors to making medical decisions on behalf of their followers. Should anyone step out of line, they stand the chance of being swiftly punished via excommunication. The fear of being ousted has kept a majority of devotees from speaking out.
They really promote going to Ohio State or Columbus State. And anything else, you're turning your back to God because God's given you this community in Columbus.
Kingdom of God Global Church, aka Joshua Media Ministries. Is David E. Taylor a genuine community leader or merely an opportunistic man with dark intentions? Followers of the Kingdom of God Global Church would say it's the former. Their leader improbably claims that his work has led to trafficking rings being busted and people being revived from the dead. But that contrasts with several reports alleging sexual abuse, depriving people of sleep, and misusing donation money to fund his vacations. Taylor has used his identity and status to distract from his financial crimes. His congregation is still active today, and his purchase of another multi-million-dollar estate in 2022 makes it clear they aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
Family is tripping you up every time you turn around. Your family is blocking your calls. Your family is blocking you from hearing the word. Your family is blocking you from life.
The Church of Euthanasia.
While you shop and dine. Overshoot. The end begins. Overshoot.
With a slogan encouraging people to end their lives, it's easy to see why this cult is so notorious. Associated with antinatalism, which decrees that repopulating is itself an immoral act, the Church of Euthanasia has one goal: to encourage a willing mass death event.
By day's end, 260,000 people will have been added to the Earth's population. Before you go to bed, 2 nights from now, the net growth in human numbers will fill a city the size of San Francisco.
They care about saving the Earth by any means possible, including advocating for extreme acts, such as cannibalism and self-inflicted death. While those who follow it insist the death must be voluntary, their aggressive sloganeering causes discomfort among many. Though their presence in the mainstream media has definitely died down and their website is not updated, it's believed many still subscribe to their warped ideas.
I, Lily Renaud Duar.
I, Lily Renaud Duar.
Do hereby vow.
Do hereby vow.
To not procreate.
To not procreate.
For as long.
For as long.
As I shall live.
As I shall live.
The LaRouche movement.
Back on the campaign trail in the mid-80s, he told Newsnight the British royal family are global drug dealers. In relation to the Queen,
of course she's pushing drugs.
If you need proof that cults can be formed around anything or anyone, look no further. Inspired by a political figure, Lyndon LaRouche, who unsuccessfully ran for president several times, the LaRouche movement is one of the most well-connected factions in modern times. LaRouche spent decades building up his base. As such, they became a prominent political group in the United States, with connections to global leaders and businesses.
Future power of the United States must be our leading part in creating and defending a global community of principle among fully sovereign nation-state republics.
In addition to their role in politics, they also made their name by causing constant discord. Followers have aggressively pushed their views and even gotten into altercations with outsiders. His influence still lives on, even long after his own death in 2019.
Basically a vehicle for policy.
So why bring that vehicle to Garrett?
Why did you guys decide to come to Garrett today? I have no idea. We're everywhere.
Shincheonji Church of Jesus.
Windows covered by tables. Inside, row after row, chanting hymns in unison.
While cults rarely have a good impact, this one managed to have a truly disastrous one. Shincheonji Church of Jesus is a specific sect that's centered around the New Testament being told in riddles that conveniently only the founder Lee Man-hee can translate. Manipulation is rife, with followers being led to believe that everyone but them will be destroyed upon judgment.
I was highly controlled every day of my life. I had to report on my daily schedule.
They've even been known to infiltrate actual places of worship in an attempt to indoctrinate new members. However, their most egregious offense took place in 2020 when a COVID-infected member of the congregation caused an outbreak in South Korea. Despite the super spreader event, Man-hee went free. The Twin Flames universe.
Jeff and Shalia literally say, God told us who your perfect partner is, and we will help you find them.
The constant expansion of the digital world has caused many people to seek out connections there, for better or worse. Twin Flames universe preys on people's desire for love by claiming to find people's soulmates for them. It sounds great on paper, but in execution, it's anything but. Members are required to do whatever possible to find their match and start a relationship, including stalking those not involved with the program and undergoing gender conversion therapy.
They were doing the same thing that they did to them, to me. They were encouraging me to change genders because of how masculine I was. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And they kept pushing and pushing.
The co-founders, Jeff and Shalia Devine, have gone on record claiming that they aren't a cult. However, many would say their actions don't reflect that.
Twin Flames update. I took work off for the whole week and booked an Airbnb in Maine, where I know he either lives or lives very close to. That's my man, this is my HTFU, and I claim it completely.
The House of Yahweh.
House of Yahweh members follow the word of their leader,
the great Kohan Israel Hawkins,
and believe in Yahweh's laws, all 613 of them.
Though not as expansive as the similarly named Nation of Yahweh, they've still managed to create a negative religious impact on their own. The House of Yahweh is primarily known for their various attempts at predicting the end of the world, dating back to 1999. Founded by Israel Hawkins in the 1970s, it's centered around the idea that it is both the oldest and only real faith, and that anything outside of its particular beliefs is blasphemous.
I think there are members within the House of Yahweh who are exploited financially, emotionally, and sexually.
Several members have faced legal issues for mistreatment of minors, including one harrowing case where a mother gave her own daughter surgery. Even the death of Hawkins in 2021 has not dissuaded members, and we can only assume there will be further doomsday predictions in the future.
The church has been known to authorities and former members as a cult. There have been reports of wrongful death, forced child marriage, child labor, and sexual assault.
Remnant Fellowship.
We were told we've got it. We've got the answer. Remnant knows they have the answer.
The one true church.
The one true church.
Weight loss is a sensitive subject for many, and intertwining it with religion seems like a recipe for disaster. Gwen Shamblin Lara combined them when she created Remnant Fellowship, but her motives were anything but pure. She preached that love for God should outweigh that for food, even encouraging people to slash their portions.
This is God's hand. Thousands upon thousands of pounds of weight loss in this congregation.
That was only the tip of the iceberg. Her manipulation tactics knew no bounds, convincing believers they were part of the only valid church and should continuously donate, all while keeping tabs on their every last move. She also promoted corporal punishment for children, apparently to a severe degree. Even her death in 2021 wasn't enough to end the movement, with some still subscribing to her teachings years later.
And I'm going to write this book about my mother, and the world will one day see
that she's a misunderstood woman.
The Branch Davidians.
They did it for God because they loved God, and they were willing to die for this and take all this infamy.
You've probably already heard of this infamous cult, but may have had no clue they were still around in a post-Waco world. The Branch Davidians are known for their role in a siege between them and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. However, their history doesn't end with David Koresh.
I believe that using CS gas against infants, against old people with respiratory problems, there were 60, 70-year-old men in there, and there were young children. That's torture.
In recent years, previous members have tried to rebuild their numbers. They not only believe Koresh was in fact chosen by God and that the world will eventually end, some are even convinced that those who were killed in 1993 had to die to further the cause. It goes to show how a huge violent event can sometimes make people double down on their twisted beliefs.
You're not going to be defined by David Koresh.
Absolutely not. To me, he's the boogeyman. He's the person that you want your children to never come across.
The Brethren.
My daughter Brittany, or how do you say it? Shlomi, is in the group for 7 years now.
The Brethren, also known by names like Brothers and Sisters and the Road Ministry, was founded around 1971 by Jimmy T. Roberts. Roberts considered modern churches to have become more materialistic than spiritual. His goal was to form a group of traveling disciples that would mirror the people who followed Jesus in the New Testament. Members were instructed to leave their possessions and families behind.
Though I don't intend on telling you where I am geographically, I can tell you where I am spiritually. I'm in the company of the most God-fearing people I have ever known.
At times, the nomadic group was seen relying on dumpsters for meals. The Brethren also draw criticism for making it difficult for those outside of the group to get in contact with their loved ones. Documentaries like God Willing have made it clear how unsettling it can be when people disappear into the Road Ministry's standards of living.
Now, when you say you have a burden, what does that mean?
I feel like a lot of left for her.
Oh, okay.
If you could tell her, I don't know if I could tell her how much I love her.
Congregation for the Light. Referred to in headlines as Manhattan's secret cult, the Congregation for the Light was formed in the 1960s. Once inside the secretive group, members are encouraged to keep their practices and teachings they learn away from anyone outside. First-hand accounts say that everyone in the congregation must prioritize weekly meetings above any other obligation. Additionally, they believe that past karma directly affects if people get sick or suffer other bad consequences. Members have reacted negatively to LGBTQ+ initiates, discourage women from attending college outside of New York, and believe in enforcing physical punishment to young members. Since congregation leaders don't write much down, many of their specific tenets remain shrouded in mystery. Apostles of Infinite Love. After a man named Michael Collin reportedly had a vision of God, he formed a Catholic group that merged with a reclusive religious group in Saint-Jovite, Quebec. They all became known as the Apostles of Infinite Love. The group came under scrutiny soon after their organization was founded. When police tried to investigate reports that young people were being mistreated in the 60s, the authorities found it hard to locate the vulnerable victims. A former member named Germain Courrier later claimed that adults in the group actively kept him from being discovered. Despite the complaints about what younger people endured, the Apostles of Infinite Love, now known as the Order of the Magnificat of the Mother of God, are still around. Love Has Won.
Carlson has led a group that today calls itself Love Has Won. The dozen or so core members live shacked up together in an incredibly stressful house in Colorado.
Through a combination of personal conversations and online videos, Amy Carlson recruited followers to her movement. Love Has Won members believed that she was nearly 20 billion years old because she had been reincarnated countless times over the years. This ideology also got her followers into trouble.
14,000 years you've been on this earth before Christ.
That's correct.
It's no wonder you're tired.
At times, members were made to feel guilty for transgressions they committed in past lives. Followers also spent multiple hours being criticized by the other members of their group. Their food and sleep schedules were also reportedly controlled by their leader. When Carlson fell ill, they allegedly didn't take her to a hospital due to some of her own teachings. Following her death, the group splintered into the Joy Reigns and 5D Full Disclosure groups.
How did she die?
I actually do not have an answer to that. Sincerely, I don't know.
Kashi Ashram.
I have been given a very special gift. And that gift is the ability to take pain.
Kashi Ashram was founded in 1976 when Ma Jaya Sati Bhagavati, born Joyce Green, established a commune in Florida. Years later, the founder was found at the center of serious accusations surrounding marriage and its youngest members. Members were allegedly encouraged to have children so Ma Jaya could take care of more young people. There were cases where the founder's name was placed on birth certificates of infants outside of her family. The religious leader also reportedly made one of her daughters marry a man against their will. There were also numerous accounts of people of all ages being physically assaulted for not doing what Ma Jaya commanded. Her organization still continued to move forward after the leader's death in 2012.
So you take from it what you want to. Symbolic, perhaps. Truth, perhaps.
Word of Faith Fellowship. There are conflicting reports as to whether people in this organization follow a list of rules that range from asking permission to buy cars to having to ask what their college major will be. But the Word of Faith Fellowship has definitely stirred up a lot of controversy. According to former members, congregants who didn't follow rules were subject to physical or mental torment.
Clearly remember different times growing up when people would literally be chased through the woods and tackled and manhandled and brought back to the church.
Known as blasting within the organization, members were allegedly punished for their sexual orientation, impure thoughts, acting out in school, and more. Over 40 members once came forward to the Associated Press to detail horror stories about what happened to them. To this day, founders Jane and Sam Whaley continue to insist that the fellowship is free of wrongdoing.
And they're going to say he had to do this because Jesus told him.
Correct, yeah.
The NXIVM Nation.
Jerry, our tour guide, says he came here from Alabama. The sheriff says most of the other residents come from the Northeast, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore.
When Dwight York, aka Malachi Z. York, started what would become the NXIVM Nation in New York, his followers were instructed to give up material possessions. They were also expected to raise a certain amount of money or face physical punishment. After attracting more followers, York moved his organization to Georgia and built an Egyptian-themed headquarters. After claiming he lived in a sovereign state, local officials arrested him for the reports of what happened there. York was charged with over 100 counts of mistreating young people that were a part of the NXIVM Nation.
We build it. It's so beautiful out there. It's a beautiful, peaceful environment where we invite any nationality, any race to come out and visit.
He was sentenced to 135 years in prison for his various crimes. However, York's followers still kept the belief system alive.
So this is the Compound nightclub?
No, it's not a compound.
Oh, it's not a compound? I'm sorry.
Unification Church.
What is the mission of the Unification Church?
神様を中心にし、ちょっとやっぱり中心として理想的な家庭を築く。
This Christian organization was started by Sun Myung Moon, a man who would eventually declare himself as a new Messiah. Throughout the 20th century, the Unification Church's push for members to make expensive donations that were coined as spiritual sales was criticized. This religious movement also drew ire because of its anti-LGBTQ+ stance and ties to several political causes. The latter criticism came to the forefront in the wake of a major 2022 incident. After a man named Tetsuya Yamagami saw his mother go bankrupt to support the group,
I didn't expect anything like this would happen in Japan.
He targeted high-ranking members. He assassinated former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe because the politician had associations with the Unification Church. The crime drew more attention to the already controversial organization.
確かにその容疑者の供述した内容だけを見ると、やっぱり注目を浴びざるを得ないなとは率直に思ったんですけど。
The Nation of Yahweh. a religious movement begun by Yahweh ben Yahweh became the source of serious acts of violence. After the group was criticized for promoting violent black supremacist ideals, multiple incidents suggested that members were taking lives. Additionally, multiple people who tried to leave the group were either threatened with violence, brutally assaulted, or even killed. Those who stayed within the group were not safe from punishment. Members who failed to meet quotas to collect money were subjected to physical torment.
They've been investigating for several years, and that's all they can find. So they're on a fishing expedition.
In 1991, Yahweh ben Yahweh faced jail time for his involvement in 14 murders. His incarceration eventually caused the group to retreat for 2 years before it returned and continued. While current leaders have moved away from the violent teachings, the movement's dark history still remains.
He found a successful philosophy that people would flock to and actually start joining.
The Church of Bible Understanding.
Trimble believes Church of Bible Understanding is a cult started by Stuart Trail, taking people's money with false pretenses for members and society.
American members who left this group reported that their time with this church was exceedingly difficult. Founder Stuart Trail pushed for followers to completely disconnect from their old lives. Once inside, members were expected to give the majority of their earnings to the church. While Trail and the organization profited, they lived in overcrowded and sometimes pest-filled places. Members of the Church of Bible Understanding were also discouraged from getting information from the outside world or marrying at all. Outside of America, the organization was criticized for running orphanages in Haiti that subjected young children to horrible conditions. After Trail died in 2018, organization members continued to practice their faith and kept running homes for orphaned people.
We're just trying to get their side of the story because apparently the church has come under fire for conditions at that orphanage. Can you connect us with them, you think?
No, I don't think I should do that.
The Rajneesh movement. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, a controversial philosophy scholar and professor, founded his movement in the late 1960s, early 70s. He dismissed established religions and instead focused on free thought, meditation, and sexual freedom.
Now there are two ways. Either repress sex as it has been done by all the so-called religious traditions of the world, or transform it. I am for transformation.
He also had a marked interest in communist literature, which influenced his teachings. He moved his facility to Oregon in the early 1980s after attracting too much controversy in India, yet found the same hostilities in the States. In order to gain political influence, the movement committed crimes such as mass local salmonella poisoning and an attempted assassination of a U.S. attorney. He was then deported, and the movement's commune was re-established in India in 1985. Rajneesh died in 1990, but the movement, now called Osho, is still very much active.
What's going to happen to your holy man?
Bhagwan had always told me that when things get too difficult for him, he will sit in his chair, take an injection, and disappear.
Iglesia ni Cristo.
Behold, all those who are incensed against you
shall be ashamed and disgraced.
They shall be as nothing.
Felix Manalo claimed to be God's, quote, last messenger when he founded Iglesia ni Cristo on Christmas 1913. Their doctrine was heavily influenced by Filipino culture to reconcile its post-colonial revival with Protestantism. The highly secretive church still has significant government influence in the Philippines as an ideological voting bloc. It's also known to force service attendance, forbid marriage outside of the faith, and discourage Bible readings outside of the church's translation.
And whatever is written, it's true and it happened. So with that faith and conviction that I have, I know he's the true messenger of God.
Excommunication, or tiwalag, supposedly means banishment from heaven. This has sparked controversy even among Manalo's descendants, whose accusations of corruption included kidnapping and internal purges. INC survived this 2015 leadership along with Eduardo V. Manalo's position as executive minister, whose adherents number in the millions worldwide.
The church has even made videos like this one from a chapel dedication in Regina, urging Canadian members to ignore critics like Lowell Menorca.
So I don't even lend an ear to those people. I don't even listen to what they say.
It's definitely the work of, the enemy.
Raelism.
The Raelians, now 30,000 strong worldwide, believe that space beings created humans through genetic experimentation.
Though its classification as a cult is sometimes debated, Raelism was, or is still, at some point in the cult category. It's essentially what's called a UFO religion, and was founded in France by Claude Vorilhon in 1974.
It's not only the scientific aspect of creating life, but also the political, religious belief, sociology, everything is. We are entering a new world which is completely different. But there is no reason to...
A better world?
A much better world.
They believe that an alien race known as Elohim created humans. The Elohim have been mistaken for gods historically, and any prophetic figure such as Jesus or Muhammad was created by them. Vorilhon, known as Rael, is the 40th and final prophet. Followers believe that the world is in an age of apocalypse, and that new technologies must be developed, after which time the Elohim will return to Earth and share their extraterrestrial knowledge with us. Current Raelian members were counted at around 18,000 in 2017.
The Rael movement has two goals. One is to spread the message, and two, to build the embassy.
Aleph.
Inside, sect members were undergoing survival training. Chemicals and drugs were used to raise, then remove states of anxiety.
Aum Shinrikyo, or more recently Aleph, was founded in Japan in 1987 by Chizuo Matsumoto, later known as Shoko Asahara. It's a doomsday cult, and its beliefs combine aspects of Indian and Tibetan Buddhism, Hinduism, Christian millenarianism, yogic practices, and the prophecies of Nostradamus.
The religion is a blend of yoga and mysticism, with bits of Buddhist, Hindu, and Christian teachings thrown in. His catchiest sales point, though, was a claim to levitation.
It started off fairly tame, but eventually the cult became criminal, with accusations of extortion, murder, and forced membership, among other things. They performed a number of attacks. At some point, the group began to manufacture sarin gas and were responsible for the attack on the Tokyo subway in 1995, which left upwards of 1,000 injured. A number of the more prominent members were executed in 2018, but there were still indications of active membership as of 2019.
About 20 members live here, an austere lifestyle driven by the desire to spread the Master's teachings.
Hello, everyone. This is Shoko Asahara.
12 tribes.
If you're not in, you're out. If you're not with me, you're against me. If you want to have a strong identity, create a strong enemy, and then you really know who you are.
Founded in Tennessee during the evangelical Jesus movement of the 1970s, the 12 tribes might seem like a simple, wholesome community on the surface. It aspires to recreate the original Christian church, as depicted in the Book of Acts. However, it allegedly exerts authoritarian control over its followers' lives and promotes strict corporal punishment, reportedly by parents and non-parents alike, which has led to accusations of child abuse.
Tessa remembers being sent out to work on her own when she was just 5 years old.
Sometimes working in kitchens, like preparing food for the whole rest of the community, or in like candle factories. So I remember being like 4 or 5 years old working with this boiling wax.
Once followers reach a certain level, they're allegedly instructed that Jews are cursed for murdering Jesus, that gay people should be put to death, and that black people are naturally servants to whites. The group has often flown under the radar, but there's a lot more going on beneath the smiling and folk dancing.
They control your logic and your thinking, and they control your money.
Happy Science.
So Happy Science have so many teachings that you can learn about them. So that is a lot of wisdom you got learn.
Founded in 1986 by former businessman Ryuho Okawa, Happy Science focuses on a fourfold path to happiness. Members of the group attend seminars and training in order to climb the group ladder. They worship El Contari, a being that is said to have been born over 300 million years ago on Earth and reincarnated through time until its current incarnation, which is, of course, Okawa himself.
Ryuho Okawa. This guy is the supreme god of Earth, more powerful than Jesus, Allah, and Moses combined.
さらに私は、ブッダも魂の兄弟の一人で、ブッダも地上に送り込んだ。2500年前に送った。
The The problem with this one comes in the form of major uncredited claims. For example, that the organization can cure the pandemic with, quote, spiritual vaccines. Okawa's own son has left the group and subsequently denounced his father's actions. Happy Science claims to have 11 million followers. However, a former member has said it's more like 30,000.
There are membership fees, there are donations for prayers, for blessings. Members may kind of rise in status based on donation to Okawa and his larger project.
The Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Every aspect of this family's life, who they marry, what they wear, even what they eat, is controlled by the man they call their prophet, Warren Jeffs.
The LDS Church spawned some fundamentalist sects when the core religion opted to renounce the practice of polygamy. Those who wished to continue the practice branched off, remaining Mormon but on their own terms. Polygamy remains illegal, however, and in 1953, an entire FLDS community was arrested in Short Creek, Arizona, modern-day Colorado City, and most had their children taken away from them.
We were taught from birth that in order to get what they called the highest degree of the celestial kingdom, you had to have at least 3 wives while you lived on earth. And if you did not, you could not reach that highest degree.
A compound in Texas was raided in 2008 after Child Protective Services was made aware of allegations of abuse. Over 400 children were taken from the compound and placed in CPS custody.
We felt like the children out there on the property were in danger, and that's when it became a very large operation.
Leader of FLDS, Warren Jeffs, remains in his position, despite being in prison for life after acts against minors. The sect currently has between 6,000 and 10,000 followers. The Lord's Resistance Army. Religious exploitation is a common asset in terrorist militias. It sits at the heart of Joseph Kony's Uganda-based Christian sect, the Lord's Resistance Army, which incorporates fundamentalism and Acholi culture. Since 1987, the former altar boy has used claims of spiritual communication and democratic ideals to justify abducting more than 60,000 children as soldiers and slaves. Many are violently forced to kill their own families and submit to Kony's interpretation of the 10 Commandments. This uniquely dogmatic militia has killed more than 100,000 people and displaced millions. And while the LRA has dramatically downsized since Kony went into hiding, he still commands many devotees as something even more insidious than a warlord.
War is the only life they've known. Kony has been accused of kidnapping, indoctrinating, and imprisoning.
The Family International.
Berg preached to the hippie generation about Jesus and recruited them to join him in his all-consuming drive to save souls.
The Children of God, more recently the Family International, was founded in 1968 by David Berg and was immediately subject to controversy as it used sex to lure potential members, which was Berg's own invention, which he called flirty fishing. They established colonies worldwide, as many as 130 in 70 countries. The Family International draw their beliefs from the Bible, yet with a heavy emphasis on loving Jesus, which is done through sexual interaction. Over time, there have been a large number of child mistreatment allegations raised against them.
Reportedly, keeping children is a cult policy. While longing for her 4 lost children, Vivian lived here in this small apartment in Sioux Falls, disoriented, unable to hold a job, and subsisting on welfare.
Celebrities such as River and Joaquin Phoenix, as well as Rose McGowan, were partially raised in this group before finding their way out. TFI is still active, albeit as an online community, boasting 1,450 members.
We were trafficked, we were moved constantly, we were never taught anybody's names. So it's very difficult to learn your abusers' names. And
you think that was by design?
Oh, absolutely.
NXIVM.
To understand NXIVM, NXIVM is the umbrella company.
Founded in 1998 by Keith Raniere and Nancy Salzman, NXIVM started out as a self-help group which offered classes called Executive Success Programs. In 2017, former members urged authorities to investigate, initially for a subgroup within NXIVM called The Vow. It was a group of women branded with Raniere's initials and on a rotation to have relations with the founder and recruit members.
You think
the person who's being branded should be completely nude and sort of held to the table like a, sort of almost like a sacrifice. I don't know if that's a feeling of submission.
In a sort of exceedingly complex relationship scheme. On top of this, in 2018, charges were brought against Raniere and 5 female members for a number of crimes, including extortion, sex trafficking, and the list goes on. Raniere got 120 years in prison. As of 2020, a number of groups branched from NXIVM are said to be active and recruiting.
We didn't even know that we were being experimented on. We thought we were just kind of learning and growing, but really they were observing and watching how we responded to the lack of sleep, how we responded to lack of food, how all of these things affected our psyche, and we were very weak. We were weak mentally and we were weak physically.
What are some other infamous cults that maintain a following? Congregate in the comments.